Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I thought in War Thunder we'd have a look at the old chronicles of World War II events since, well, at least from what we've seen, they seem to be being phased out of existence in favour of what we know as the Battlefield Engineer event. And the reason why I want to go through the old events and basically talk about how they used to work is, first of all, for just kind of a little historical thing if you weren't around at the time, and also because I kind of like the event. I know a lot of people, there's definitely, it was one of the most disliked or controversial events that War Thunder ran, but the reason why I personally liked it was because of the things people thought were controversial. I liked the idea of being actually able to play some historical matchmaking, even though it wasn't always balanced, and the fact that it gave you something different when it came to the game. And on top of it, if you look at the vehicles through the majority of the events, they are some of the most balanced vehicles that we have as gift vehicles in the game. So I thought, why not have a look through the vehicles that it gave, then have a talk about how the event used to work, and then also talk about the timing and why I think World War II Chronicles is a thing of the past. So let's talk about that first. If you look at each of the World War II Chronicles events that we had, this one, which was in 2018, started on the 14th of April. So pretty soon, and we haven't heard anything about it. Then we have this one from 2016, which started on the 11th of April, so even closer to today. Then the 2017 one started once again on the 14th of April. Then we had this one, which was in 2015. This started at least on the 8th of April, or around that time as well. And then we had another one in 2015, which also started on the 11th of April, to get yourself a Hellcat Mark 1 and an Avenger Mark 1 on top of the Spitfire Mark 9, which you got through a Victor's Trophy in the Events and Tournaments tab. So there is, as you can see, a long history in War Thunder of this World War II Chronicles event, and what the awards that you got through it were generally quite good gift vehicles. So the Spitfire Mark 9, obviously a very good Spitfire, at least back in the day. Now it gets a little bit out energy force, but still has a really good climb rate. Unfortunately struggles a little bit in the dive, but overall one of my favorite Spitfires. Hellcat Mark 1 is a standard, vehicle. It's used to be incredibly broken back in the day because of its energy retention, but nowadays it's a lot better with an updated FM. The Avenger is just a bog standard torpedo slash light bomber, I suppose you'd call it. Overall, it does the job well. But then when we go into 2016, which is this event here, what we got was a KV-2 Mod 1940, the A34 Comet, the MBR-2, and of course Mr. Bong's or Richard Bong's P-38J. Now, all of these vehicles, I would say, are pretty balanced vehicles. The MBR-2 does not have a crazy bomb load, doesn't have a ton of turrets, but it is a unique and interesting vehicle. The KV-2 Mod 1940 is just a slightly different version of the KV-2 we have in the tech tree. It does have a coaxial, no cupola, and the armor is slightly different. The A34 Comet Iron Duke is a literal copy of the Comet that we have in the tree, and of course Richard Bong's P-38J is also very similar to one that we have in the tree. That's a beautiful picture of the MBR. But overall, this was quite a fun event, and once again, the vehicles that you got were not crazy. They were generally just good gift vehicles. The festive events, the Christmas events, is normally where you get the crazy stuff, such as the KV-220 and the Ersatz M10. Now, the 2017 one gave you the Matilda Mark II F96, the A33 Excelsior, the PV-2D Harpoon, and the AC-3T. Now, the PV-2D Harpoon is incredibly good, but it isn't meta breaking. The A33 Excelsior is not crazy. The Matilda Mark II F96 is, well, it's a Matilda with a Soviet 76 on it, and the AC-3T is also very good. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open up War Thunder to show you all these vehicles, because I thought, why the hell not? So now I've got War Thunder open, I can show you the vehicles, but one thing I do want to point out before I just want to talk about how hard these events used to be compared to what they were last year. Now, as you can see for this event, in order to guarantee yourself a Spitfire Mark 9 Soviet version, you would have to get 225 victories. And all you would get out of that is a premium vehicle, a unique title, and a decal. That is insane when you have a think about it. It is a lot of work for a rank 4 machine compared to nowadays, where last year all you had to do was get 11 of the Chronicle awards in either ground vehicles or air vehicles, and you could get yourself 2 pretty decent vehicles to be able to play with. So it just shows over the years how the events in general for War Thunder have got easier. A lot of people will point to the IS-7 event. The IS-7 event was not hard. You just had to invest time. It was literally a time versus money scenario. So, it wasn't something that you had to really work at. Whereas events like this and Summertime Madness back in the day, you had to invest so much time, it did not feel worth it. But nowadays, it's a lot better for your soul and also for your pocket. So let's talk about some of the things that were on offer. So this was the first one. You got the Hellcat Mark 1, which of course is a American plane in the British tree. You can find it here. Well, this is actually the Hellcat Mark 2. Did it have a name change? I think it may have had a name change. So this is the Hellcat Mark 2, rank 3, battle rating 3.7. And then of course, you have the Avenger Mark 2 as well. Now, these might be slightly different planes to the Mark 1 and the Mark 2, the 2 Mark 1s, but I've got a feeling they just had their names changed, so that's kind of what happened there. So, after 2015, the 2016 one, which isn't this one, it's actually this one, we got the Iron Duke, and a lot of these vehicles have actually been offered after the event is finished as well, so I know for a fact when it comes to the KV2 1940, I actually picked this up at a later event because unfortunately I missed the event that we see. So this is a rank 3 battle racing 4.3 vehicle, very similar to the one that we have in the tree. As I said, the main difference being the coaxial. And then you have a look at the MBR2, which at 1.0 is one of the lowest premiums we've ever had. And you can see that on it, all you have is 2 7.62mm Shikasses, 2 250 kilo bombs, and a single engine, which means that this thing is incredibly slow. Like, this is not a world beater, but it's really fun to fly around because it's got a crazy elevator on it. Then, of course, we have the Iron Duke, which was given away in one of the most recent events, again, as a stretch goal for people to be able to sort out right here. And here it is, in all of its wonder with its late bicolor camouflage. This is a complete copy of the Comet that you have in the tree, so once again, pretty good premium for this type of event. And unfortunately, Bongs is one of those gift vehicles I was never able to get. And I cursed the day that I wasn't able to get it, because I was back in England at the time dealing with some personal issues that I had. So maybe one day, if Bongs comes back, I'll be able to pick it up, but unfortunately, today is not that day. So you can see these were very simple to get. You just had to follow the Chronicles events. They even gave you a Q&A and all the daily tasks and all of this. And one thing, the daily tasks, which happened, every 2 days, they got easier and easier and easier as these events went, later in years. So the early ones, as I said, were a lot harder than the stuff that we see in 2018, and I'm sure what we'll see in 2019. And then in 2017, they became even easier. So you got the Matilda Mark II F96, which is a Matilda, as I said, with a 76 strapped to it. This machine right here. Overall, I enjoy this machine because it's just something different compared to the rest, but it definitely isn't a machine that's going to take over the meta. The gun's good, the armor's okay, but it's definitely better than the original Matilda, which is in the British tree. And then if we have a look at the British tree, you get the Excelsior, which I've used to put all the majority of my guns on that I've got from missions. So this is the Excelsior. It's a fat Cromwell, and the armor doesn't really matter, but it is a little bit of a speedy boy, and it is, I suppose, you can angle it a little bit better. But the external armor doesn't really matter that much, because most people shoot you here, most people shoot you here, and at 4.0 they can easily go through 115 millimeters. I personally like it just because you can zoom around in it, and it gives you a little bit of extra armor, but it's nothing crazy. Then you got the PV2D Harpoon, which is over here in the American tree. And you also have the PB3M, but that was Sea Voyage events, which we just had. So the PV2D Harpoon is this machine. It actually came in slightly different to what it is now, where now you can actually have the external MGs on it, meaning that it can be a complete bomber killer. Before, it was just a bomber killer which also had bombs attached to it, so you could kill a base and then kill all the other bombers. This is one of the better vehicles that we've got out of these events, just because of its craziness when it comes to its ability to be able to kill either planes or kill bombing targets. It's a good multi-purpose machine. The next one being the Yak-3T is one of the planes I highly recommended people get because of the fact that it's a rank 3 Battle Racing 5.0 vehicle with the 37 and 220s. This thing has a lot of power behind it, and at 5.0 the Soviets are kind of at their peak when it comes to their when it comes to their prop planes. Anything above that really struggles. So the Yak-3, apart from the VK, but the VK is a premium. the Yak-3T has this wonderful thing where it is the same BR as the 3P, the same BR as the M71 and the Yak-9P, and also the Su-6. So all of these vehicles together work great in harmony, and this vehicle has a great balance between maneuverability and acceleration, meaning that it can do really well on the battlefield to go after enemies and annihilate them. Really good premium to have. If there ever's a new Soviet vehicle, normally I just take this thing out and just have a little bit of fun. So let's just see how good are my statistics in this. Maybe kind of hard to tell. Let's just see. Oh, here we go. 22 and 10, so about 2 to 1 with a 60%. I think that's pretty good. It's alright. So those were the ones from 2017. And then 2018, once again, we had a great mix of vehicles which were not meta-defining, but instead were just fun to play. And, you know, that to me should be the first thing when it comes to these gift vehicles. There should be vehicles which are interesting, which are weird, which are wonderful, but should never be meta-defining like specific vehicles that we've had in the past, such as the wonderful KV-220. Oops. The KV-220 that we see here. Then the German KV. Then, of course, the Ersatz M10. All of these vehicles are very much meta-defining if they want to be, and a lot of the time can be used to really just annihilate anybody that they feel like. So, for me, when it comes to stuff like the Boarhound, which is a very good vehicle, don't get me wrong, you know, it's got a good gun on it, the 57, it's got speed behind it, but on terrain such as sand and snow, it really struggles, and also it's a huge target with no armor, right? So it's an okay scout, but it's the scout which is as big as a barn, which is kind of funny. And then we have, of course, the Tandem Mai. The Tandem Mai being a Soviet rank 1 plane to add to the list of gift vehicles that the rank 1 Soviets get. And it's just a weird and quirky, wonderful machine which doesn't really turn, but goes really fast. So it's never going to be good at rank 1, because if you want to go fast and energy fight, the HE-100 exists and it's going to annihilate you. So it just means that this vehicle is kind of left in like weird no man's land, but it does get a nice skin on it, as you can see, the white skin, which I believe was part of the event. And then the last one was, of course, oh sorry, you have the Lorraine 155. the French one that we see right here as a rank 3 Bata Racing 4.3 donk gun, which when it actually came in, it had either 0 or +3 or +5 degrees gun depression, so you could only shoot straight, or if you wanted to shoot straight, you had to arc shots into enemies. Luckily now it has -5, so it's a little bit better. But what is fun about this machine is the 20mm on top, which you can use to rat-a-tat, light vehicles or aircraft. This, to me, exemplifies what you want to find in a vehicle which is, a vehicle which is designed to be a gift vehicle. It's weird, it's wonderful, it's a little bit of fun, and it's not going to be meta-defining. And then the last one, the last but not least vehicle, is the Whirlwind P9, which came into the game. It was just a better version of the one in the tree, just a straight up better version of it, because of the fact that it just had more ammo, 484, whereas the Whirlwind Mark 1 only has 240 with the same guns, same performance, same everything. Now, the Whirlwind Mark 1 at least now gets bombs, so this should technically be called the Whirlwind Mark 2, but at least, it has a reason to be the same BR. So this was a little bit annoying to me, because it literally is, an event vehicle which is better than its tech tree equivalent. The question is, was it that much better? No, it isn't, but it does mean that you can kill 1 or 2 targets more, and also on top of it, with the Whirlwind P9, it still has all the problems as the other Whirlwind, so seeing it drop in BR over and over again is not really a surprise, but it's not meta-defining, right? The BF-109s, the Spitfires around this level are meta-defining, where this is just kind of a nice cherry on top, which you can take out and have fun. So you can see over the years there's been a great selection of vehicles, which none of them have really been absolutely insane, apart from maybe the PV-2D Harpoon, you could say that. All the rest are pretty good. The Spitfire Mark 9 back in the day was insane, but nowadays not so much. So from that angle, I thought the balance between power and fun was really good when it came to the vehicles of this event. Now let's talk about how you got these vehicles. So the way you did it was completing these objectives that you can see here. But the issue that people had was you could only receive Chronicle awards by completing objectives during Chronicles of World War II events. Now you would find these, of course, in the event tab, which is found right here. And obviously it's not there right now, but what this meant was a lot of people didn't like this system. They didn't like the fact that what you had to do was play this event in an event which you could only take specific vehicles in. Every other event that we have, whether it's the Operation Summer event, the Festive event, the Sea Voyage event we just had, it's all tailored around the idea that you personally can play in your own specific vehicles that you want to take, as long as it's like rank 3 or rank 2 and above. And what this meant was forcing somebody into an event where they had to use specific vehicles. No one was ever happy about this. Now for me, as a person who has played War Thunder for a long time, who believes that everybody should experience, at least try to experience every part of the game, whether it's naval, aircraft, bombers, or fighters, ground vehicles, anything. You should try and dip your toes in everything to give it a go, whether it be different nations and stuff like that. I liked the World War II Chronicles event because it meant that people had to grind out different nations. It meant that people had to try different things instead of just playing the same things over and over and over again. Another problem we also had when it came to being able to complete all of these in random battles is the fact that people would just take really overpowered vehicles. Not overpowered is the wrong word. Meta is the right word. So the 75 Jumbo is obviously a classic. It's the one that I personally use for every event and still will use for every event, even with its BR increase. You can see if I do all of this. There we go. And then just do ground targets destroyed, put in these lads. You can see that my jumbos are what I go to, right, when I want to get stuff done. Because why not? They're crazy good, really good for SL and all of this. And then there's a bunch of other vehicles in there that also, you know, I really enjoy doing. But the main thing is, at the end of the day, is the fact that you're just going to play the strong vehicles because you want to get the events done as soon as possible. And also when it comes to planes, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take the stuff that you are comfortable in, such as Pakrishkins, and get like a 3-to-1 KD in it. And so even though for normal events there was this choice that you could take whatever you wanted, in my opinion it was an illusion. Because no matter what you did, you had to play the meta vehicles in order to do well, in order to get the wins, the kills, the score, everything like this. So even though it was like, oh, you can play anything as long as it's rank 3 or above. Well, no, I can't. Not if I want to do it in a certain time frame, or if I want to do it efficiently, I can't do it in that. And, you know, you're forcing me to play certain game modes anyway. So I never have seen the other events to be that different to World War II Chronicles in that way. Apart from in World War II Chronicles, you are specifically told to use specific vehicles every 2 days. And, you know, every day you had different sets of historical vehicles. Now, one of the problems a few people brought up, which I think is a decent one, is the fact that people just try and play one side every time. So if it's like T-34 85s versus Panther 2s, or sorry, Panther A's, then the majority of people would just play one side of that because they would see it as a winning side. And even if that was the case, what I enjoyed doing was playing the other side and working on everything else apart from the wins. This meant I had really fast games. It also meant that when we did get a win, it did feel very good to be able to do it. So for me, I never saw that as an issue. I saw it as a challenge. And since these events are challenges, you know, that was a good thing. Another thing that people didn't really like as well is the fact that the vehicles were never amazing, you know, and this is something that is always going to be a debated topic when it comes to War Thunder. So there is a feeling that if you grind for a very long time, because normally you'd have to do 11 Chronicle Awards, so that's 11 days of grinding, or 22 days of grinding, you know, if you want to see it like that. A lot of people thought that because of this idea, you should get a really good vehicle at the end of it, like a KV-220 or an ersatz, right? Now, I've never believed in that idea, because basically what you're doing, hello Bernard, you are pretty much giving the best vehicles in the game, or the meta-defining vehicles, to the best players. This is the same reason why I'm against tournaments being given, you know, special rare vehicles, because especially if they're incredibly good vehicles, not just because it's an exclusivity thing, but also because you are technically giving the best players the best vehicles, and I think that's just a bad idea. And with this Battlefield Engineer event, none of these vehicles are bad, but I don't think any of them are going to be meta-defining. The Macarva has a chance, a real slim chance. The light cruiser, the British one, has a slight chance, but I don't think it will. And the I-180, well, I mean, the I-180, we already have some meta-defining vehicles such as the I-301 and the I-29, you know, so it just is how it is. So it's something that I'm always worried about, right? Something that I don't want the best players to get the best toys all the time when it comes to these events. I'd rather have some interesting, weird stuff like the Excelsior instead of, let's say, another jumbo with more armor on it. It would just be much better from a community point of view to get these vehicles, and as long as they were either very close copies of pre-existing vehicles, or, you know, vehicles which are very similar to others. So there's a lot of stuff in the World War II Chronicles event which is going to be lost. You know, the event, the fact that, you know, we're going to lose all of those different challenges, which, fighting different sets of enemies. We're going to miss the community aspect of it, where people can actually play historical matchmaking, because, well, it doesn't exist anywhere else in War Thunder. But it seems like if it's going to go, which right now it's looking like, obviously nothing has been confirmed, but normally by this point we've heard something about, the Chronicles event. My feeling is it's going to go in favor of this Build-A-Bear event. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. I personally am not. I would rather see this Battlefield Engineer event be the summer event, because the Operation Summer event is very similar to the festive event that we get, or make it a long-form event, so 3 months to 6 months event, very similar to how the squadron vehicles are going to work. That, to me, would be much better to do, instead of a overlap onto the Chronicles of World War II stuff, because it's just, this event is unique. There's nothing else like it. And if you make all the events the same, such as the Sea Voyage, such as the Festive event, such as the Build-A-Bear stuff, people are going to get bored of them. And all they're going to do is demand better and better vehicles from them, until you're left in a situation where you're kind of screwed. Because you have to give them better vehicles, or they're not going to play the events. And if they're not going to play the events, what's the point in investing the time? It's kind of a sad cycle. But hopefully, the Chronicles of World War II isn't done. Hopefully we get our little historical fix every year. But right now it's just not looking good, which is why I made this video, so I could chronicle the Chronicles of World War II. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Dyslexic Child, Moxie, Olo Brolo, Martinez, and Super Cacti for supporting me on Patreon.